What are the theories of human rights? If you're curious about the underlying ideas behind human rights, you're about to dive into a fascinating world of philosophical debates and theories. Let's break it down step by step. One of the most discussed theories is the interest theory. This theory suggests that human rights are in place to protect and promote essential human interests. It's about ensuring that individuals have the necessary conditions to lead a good life, such as the right to health care, education, and protection from torture. On the other hand, we have the will theory, which focuses on the human capacity for freedom. According to this theory, human rights are valid because they reflect the unique ability of humans to make choices and act freely. This theory emphasizes...
Rings a bell? Oh, yes, of course. It was in the last century. Grandma and Grandpa's generation. Legend has it that there were still dinosaurs hiding in caves up in the mountains. But that is something we're really not sure of at all. Back then, everyone was recovering from the Second World War and its 70 million dead, the most devastating conflict in human history. So in 1948, to make sure such atrocities would not happen again, the search for shared values began. Why? Have people unite around a strong symbol, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What is less known is that it was adopted by the UN General Assembly and has become the most translated text on Earth. But what are human rights? The rights you are entitled to simply because you are a human being. In other words, everyone benefits from them from birth, without exception or distinction. The idea behind it is that these rights are like needs. They are absolutely necessary to live well. Without them, it would be the law of the jungle, and you'd risk being beheaded if your government didn't like your Facebook status. In the Declaration's 30 articles, there are the civil and political liberties, such as the right to life, the right to vote, freedom of expression, or the prohibition of slavery and torture. Rights are interdependent, indivisible, and interrelated. This means that if a right is not respected, a series of other rights won't be either. If you are homeless, you live in the streets, so you can't sleep. You get sick, you don't go to school, and won't find a job. Violation of the right to adequate housing triggers the violation of the right to rest, the right to education, the right to work, etc. These are economic, social, and cultural rights. Okay, so a great text was agreed upon, but who does what? Well, on paper, the state's mission is to take the necessary measures for the Declaration to be respected. But in reality, there are some very bad students. The Declaration is not a legislative text, it's an ideal. Its name says it all, it is a declaration. Therefore, it is not valid in a court of law. But most states have integrated human rights in their constitution, and therefore, they must guarantee them. You can defend human rights only if you know them. Everybody's role is to ensure they are respected. Collective conscience means that each and every person is responsible for everybody else's well-being. Therefore, we can all get involved, protest against injustices, and make the universal rights ideal succeed.
The idea of rights as universal, we often trace back to political philosopher John Locke, who wrote in the 17th century. And he proposed that human beings are born with what he called a blank slate, or a tabula rasa. And because of that, people should therefore be endowed with a series of inalienable rights granted from birth. To John Locke, these three central core rights were the right to life, liberty, and property. And a lot of John Locke's thinking has formed the basis of Western liberal democratic society. And some of these inalienable universal rights are reflected in the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 2, for example, states that access to these rights and the granting of those rights are given to you solely because you are a human and cannot be based on location or nationality or race or gender or ethnicity or language or religion. And to follow up on that, Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Right? So these central core rights of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we can certainly understand to be universal, right? Granted to you from birth, and, the right to life, security of person, maybe those should be something that everybody in the world should be entitled to have.
What do Stephen Fry, Ricky Gervais, Margaret Atwood, Albert Einstein, Sarah Pascoe and Philip Pullman have in common? They're all humanists. But what exactly is a humanist? Well, in a nutshell, humanists think that every human should be given the freedom and opportunity to live their life to the fullest, whilst respecting and protecting the rights of everyone else and the planet. Humanists are non-religious. They don't believe in gods or an afterlife. Humanists are secular. They don't think that religion and things like politics or education should mix. Humanists are rational. They understand the world through science and rational argument. Humanists are socially responsible. They believe that we all have a social responsibility to each other and the planet. Humanism is an approach to life that's always existed. Nobody invented humanism. It doesn't have a founder or a central figure. It doesn't have a set of prescribed rules or beliefs. It's a movement, not a creed. Humanism is about creating a world that fosters the fullest possible development for every human being. So why do so many people gather together under the banner of humanism? Many voices together achieve more. And humanist groups have led and supported many different campaigns over the years, winning victories and making changes for the better in Scotland and across the globe. By supporting humanist organisations, we can make changes locally, nationally and globally. So, find out how you can get involved.
Hegel took a very positive view of institutions and of the power they can wield. This was a point Hegel made again and again in different ways. For ideas to be active and effective in the world, a lot more is needed than that ideas are simply correct. To make major truths powerful in society, they need employees and buildings and budgets and legal advisors. Institutions allow for the scale of time and power that big projects need to become effective in the world. So, as new needs of a society get recognized, they should ideally lead not just to new books, but to the formation of new institutions. Nowadays, we might say we need major new institutions to focus on relationships, consumer education, career choice, mood management, and how to bring up less damaged children. Hegel helps us to see valuable insights where we might initially resist them, in art, in institutions, in the ideas of our enemies, and in the strange mistakes of the past. His insight is that growth requires the clash of divergent ideas, and therefore that it will be painful and slow. But at least once we know this, we don't have to compound our troubles by thinking them abnormal. Hegel gives us a more accurate and hence more manageable view of ourselves, our difficulties, and where we are in history.